Yo, what's going on, guys? It's Noah here, breaking down the Thursday Night Football Showdown slate on Draftkings. We're already into Week 14. For Week 14 this Thursday, we got a game between the Bears and the Cowboys. It honestly should be I guess, a nice game to watch. I mean, you do have a close projected game. This game has a 2.5-point spread right now, 43 total, so it's not going to be like a high-scoring game, I wouldn't imagine. But you do have two teams here that are pretty much, both of them are fighting for a playoff spot. So it should make for a fun game to watch. It's probably not going to be the best showdown slate just because you have like two solid defensive teams, two teams that play relatively slow, low total as well. But we'll talk through the showdown slate. Just before we do get started, guys, I would definitely appreciate it if you would drop a like on this video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you have not yet. Click that notification bell so that way you get notified every time I upload. As always, link is down in the description to my Twitter. If you want to follow me on Twitter, you can do so at DFS by Noah. Also, down in the description, you can access my Patreon where I have a ton of exclusive content. I will have a full written article for this showdown slate. I will most likely be posting it on Wednesday. If I don't get it up on Wednesday, I'll for sure have it up on Thursday morning. I'll do a full breakdown, talk about some of my favorite plays, ways I feel like we should be constructing our lineup for this showdown slate. So if you want to see some of the content I have on Patreon, you can check that out. I'll have a lot of NFL content throughout the week. For the main slate, like I said, I'll have an article for the showdown slate as well. I do have a ton of NBA content that I post Monday through Friday over on Patreon as well. So I would greatly appreciate it if you would check out some of the stuff I have to offer over on Patreon, see everything that I have. But let's go ahead and take a look at this showdown slate. I guess we'll sort of start off at the top, start off with the quarterbacks, just kind of do like I always do. So looking at the two quarterbacks in this game, you got Dak Prescott, 10,800, Mitchell Trubisky, 8,800. So clearly between the two quarterbacks, I mean, Dak is the much more talented quarterback. He's been much better for fantasy this season, just as a fantasy QB. But this is a really tough spot for him on a Thursday night, having to go into Chicago. I think it's going to be pretty cold for this game. It's going to be like low 30s, at least game time temperatures. Dak's been much better at home this season than on the road. This is a really tough spot for Prescott. I could see him struggling here. I don't know if you really get a ceiling game from Dak, at least in this matchup. You do have Trubisky for $2,000 cheaper, who's been playing much better this season, or much better as of late, I should say. I mean, he hasn't been great this season, but at least for fantasy, he's been much better as of late. I would say his matchup against this Cowboys defense is a little bit better. So Trubisky, honestly, with the $2,000 savings, is probably the quarterback I want to go to in this game if I'm going to look to one of the quarterbacks. And just talking about receivers as well, I think I have more interest in the Bears receivers than I do the Cowboys receivers. So that's probably just going to make me have more interest in Trubisky in general. So I like Trubisky between the two quarterbacks. I don't think either of them stand out as like smash plays. I don't think there are really any smash plays in this game. Like all receivers, all running backs are in relatively tough matchups. But Trubisky I do prefer between the two QBs. Obviously between the running backs, I mean, Ezekiel Elliott is clearly the top option. And he's one of the highest projected plays on this showdown slate. It's not a good matchup for him against the Bears, but it's a one-game slate. I mean, our options are very limited. There could be some value, like in this 3K range, that we could go to, but depending on what happens with Anthony Miller. So it should be relatively easy to get to Zeke if you want to. I mean, he's the best running back to go to in this game. I don't really have interest in either running back from Chicago. Like David Montgomery, he's just not that talented of a running back. He needs to score in order to pay off this price tag. Like, if you're not getting a touchdown from Montgomery, he's not going to get you probably more than 10 DraftKings points. I mean, the games that he's smashed this season, he's found the end zone once, if not twice. I mean, he had a really big game against the Chargers where he ran for 135 yards, but you don't expect that from Montgomery much. I mean, this is a guy, if you just watch Bears games, like he literally gets stuffed at the line of scrimmage. It seems like every play. Every time he runs, it seems like he just gets 2 yards and then he falls down. He's just not very efficient, not the running back I want to go to. If I'm going to go to a Bears running back, I'd probably rather just go to Tariq Cohen. I almost said Tevin Coleman. Go to Tariq Cohen, 6,600. He's $1,000 cheaper on DraftKings with how the PPR scoring is. I mean, Tariq Cohen's always viable because we know he's probably going to get anywhere from like 6 to 8 targets. There's always potential for him to get a receiving touchdown. He probably gives you more upside than Montgomery as well, even though he's going to touch the ball less. So if I'm going to go to a running back from the Bears side, it's going to be Tariq Cohen. But just in general, if I'm going to target a running back in this game, I'm just going to try and find a way to fit in Ezekiel Elliott, even in a pretty tough matchup. But then looking at the receivers, you got Allen Robinson, Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup, just some of the top-tier receivers. I mean, it's a really tough spot for both Cooper and Gallup, just starting off with them. This Bears secondary has been really good. Kendall Fuller, Prince Amukamara, who is questionable. I mean, Amukamara, I don't think he practiced on Tuesday, so that's going to be a pretty big injury to watch. But both of those corners have been really good this season. Tough spot for both Cooper and Gallup. Cooper, kind of like Prescott, he's had pretty drastic home and road splits. Not as drastic as, or his home and road splits are much more drastic than Prescott. Like, I think Prescott this season is averaging like 28 fantasy points at home, and on the road he's averaging like 20 fantasy points. But if we look at Amari Cooper, at home this season he's averaging 27 DraftKings points, on the road 8 DK points. He's really struggled on the road outside of the dome. This is a tough spot. I don't have much interest in Amari Cooper. Really don't have much interest in Michael Gallup either. I mean, he's not a guy that I feel like you're going to get much of upside from. If I'm going to go to a receiver in this game, it's going to be Allen Robinson. He's the receiver that I like most. He's definitely one of my favorite plays to go to. I mean, he's a very consistent receiver. He's been very consistent this season. Even with Mitchell Trubisky not having the best season, you've still seen Allen Robinson put up really big numbers. He had 886 and 1 on Thanksgiving Day against Detroit. Got 12 targets in that game. Had 6, 131 and 1 against the Giants. 10 targets in that game. We know Allen Robinson is going to get targeted a ton. I mean, he's going to get anywhere from 8 to 10 targets most weeks. Sometimes more, maybe a little bit less, but usually 8 to 10 is kind of like the target range that he lives in. 9,600, he's the receiver that I want to go to if I'm going to go to a receiver. And like I said, he's probably one of my favorite plays, especially because there's no like play that stands out given the matchup. Like Zeke doesn't really stand out. Dak's in a tough spot. Allen Robinson, I think, could probably have the most success. And at 9,600 as a captain play, I think he makes plenty of sense pairing him with Mitchell Trubisky. If I'm just playing one lineup, that's probably the route that I take. We will talk about that, though, later in the video. We'll look at a couple roster builds, talk about some roster construction. But then, like the tight ends, I mean, the tight ends don't present you with much upside here. Jason Witten did have a relatively good game on Thanksgiving Day against the Bills. He went for 6, 41, and 1. He got 8 targets in that game. I mean, you can definitely have, like, tight ends against the Bears have been able to have success this season. I could see using Jason Witten on this slate, especially just given how weak the other options are. He's 5,600. He's relatively priced. You probably get more upside with a guy like Randall Cobb, who's $800 more. Like, Cobb's more likely to give you a 20-point game than Jason Witten is. But I would say it's a better matchup for Witten than for Cobb. Cobb going to play in the slot here. So I don't really know if I want to go to like either guy's like smash plays, but if you're building out a lineup and you got 6,400 left or 5,600 left, I'd be fine plugging those two guys in. Like I wouldn't be reconstructing my lineup. I didn't talk about Randall Cobb when I talked about receivers, but I guess he's a fine play at 6,400. I don't really have any interest in like Cooper or Gallup, but I'd be a little bit interested in Cobb at 6,400. A little bit of interest in Witten at 5,600. Definitely need to talk about some of these other Bears receivers, though, besides Allen Robinson. So you got Anthony Miller at 7K. You got Javon Wims at 3,200. Big injury we're going to have to watch heading into Thursday is Taylor Gabriel. He did not practice on Tuesday, and as I'm recording this video on Tuesday night, it seems relatively likely that he's not going to play this week. He did not play on Thanksgiving Day, and we saw both Javon Wims, or mainly Javon Wims, but Anthony Miller saw a pretty big boost as well. Wims just in the like 2 or 3 games this season that either one of Miller or Gabriel have been out. He's played 94, 93, and 89% of the snaps. He is going to be the outside receiver. They'll put Anthony Miller in the slot. I think they'll line up Allen Robinson in the slot as well. Robinson played 92% of the snaps week 13. Anthony Miller 86%. So we're going to see a lot of Anthony Miller and a lot of Javon Wims in this game if Taylor Gabriel is out. Anthony Miller had a really big game Thanksgiving Day. 9 catches, 140 yards. He had 13 targets in that game. Both Wims and Miller should see relatively nice volume, and they're pretty cheap. I mean, Miller's 7K. If Gabriel is out, I would definitely prefer Miller over Cobb. And I think Wims right now, at least just looking at this slate on Thursday night, or on Tuesday night, is looking like one of the better values. I mean, you have the kickers and defenses who I think are in play on the Showdown slate. Like, rarely do I play kickers or defenses, but this is definitely a Showdown slate where I think you can look to them. Javon Wims, though, for 3,200, I like a lot as a value. I got 6 targets in that game against Detroit where he played 89% of the snaps. With Gabriel out, he had 5 catches, 56 yards. I would project him for about the same kind of numbers in this game against Dallas. So 3,200, he's in play as a value. But other than Wims, there's really no punt values that I like. You obviously have the kickers and defenses, but I don't really want to go to like the tight ends from Chicago. You just don't know what you're going to get from them. Like Horsted caught a touchdown last week. He only played like 10% or like 11% of the snaps, though, so he was barely on the field. He just kind of got lucky there. Tavon Austin, I mean, he got like 5 targets last week, but you're never going to feel good putting Tavon Austin in your lineup. There's really no cheap plays I like. I mean, maybe there's some upside for Cordell Patterson because he'll play with the special teams, so I guess there's a chance he gets like a return touchdown or something, but I mean, that's nothing more than like a really deep GPP flyer. So I think we pretty much covered like the player pool and just all the options that I had the most interest in. So let's talk about roster construction now, how I'm going to probably be looking to build my lineups. I talked about Allen Robinson. He's probably the player I have the most interest in on this Showdown slate and the guy that I would like to go to the most at captain. So let's look at a build that we can do with him at captain. Usually whenever I play a receiver, or a receiver at captain, I want to pair him with his quarterback. So if I'm playing Robinson at captain, I want Trubisky in those lineups as well. Going Robinson at captain, then plugging in Trubisky leaves you 6,700 remaining per player. So we can already look for some values, and I talked about a couple values I like, mainly Javon Wims. If Taylor Gabriel is out Thursday night, I think Javon Wims is a really good value at 3,200, just because he's going to be on the field for 85-90% of the snaps. It's very likely he gets anywhere from like 4 to 6 targets. There's a chance he could go for like 4 catches, 30 yards, and a touchdown, which would be a pretty good value at 3,200. You can always plug in the kickers as well as value plays. I'm fine doing that on this Showdown slate, just given the lack of value. Let's see what we can get to, if maybe we can get up to Zeke or something. If we want to get to Zeke at 11-2, I imagine we're going to have to play the kickers. Just plugging in Zeke leaves us 6,200 remaining per player, so we actually might not have to. We could probably go, I think we could go Witten and Cobb if we wanted to go that route. Yeah, you could definitely do that. You could play Witten and Cobb there. You got all guys that at least have upside. You got Zeke in there with some pass catchers that should see relatively nice volume. I'd try and play at least one of the 2 quarterbacks, and it would definitely, like, having exposure to 2 Cowboys pass catchers without having exposure to Prescott does feel a little bit weird, but just given the lack of options, I mean, Elliott's probably going to project better than Prescott, so even though like I could play Prescott in this lineup, I'd probably just rather play Elliott because he just has more upside. I feel like you're more likely to get a 20-25 point game from him, especially in this matchup. Like, it's a really tough spot for Dak Prescott. I mean, he could go for 20 DraftKings points, but I feel a little bit better with Elliott. But since you do have 2 Dallas pass catchers, I could see plugging out Zeke and then putting in Dak there. That leaves you $800 remaining, so you could leave the salary on the table. You might could upgrade somewhere. Like if you wanted to upgrade from Randall Cobb to Anthony Miller, you could do that. I don't think you could upgrade from Witten. No, you couldn't upgrade from Witten, but you could get up from Cobb to Miller, which I'm fine doing. I mean, Anthony Miller is going to project really well if Taylor Gabriel is out. So that's a build that I like doing quite a bit. I wanted to see like how, if you wanted to play Zeke at captain, how you're going to have to build your lineup. I mean, plugging in Zeke at captain is going to leave you 6,640 remaining per player. I don't know how many people are going to go to Zeke at captain. I feel like Allen Robinson's probably going to be the most the highest exposure, or going to have the most exposure at captain. Maybe Mitchell Trubisky because he's a little bit cheaper, but people will probably play a lot of Robinson at captain, which I do like. Don't think Zeke's going to be that popular, so let's see how we can build out a lineup if we go with Zeke at captain. We're definitely going to need value, so we can look to Wims. We could probably plug in 2 cheap values. Maybe we can try and get like a stars and scrubs lineup. Plug in Wims as a value, then maybe plug in one of the kickers. Usually picking which kicker has the better game is just a coin flip. I usually just pick the team that has the higher team total, which is the Cowboys right now, so we'll just plug in the Cowboys kicker, 3,800. It's going to leave you 87.33 remaining per player. You could definitely play both quarterbacks if you wanted to. You could play Trubisky at 8,800, Dak at 10.8, and that leave you enough to play one of Tariq Cohen, Randall Cobb, Jason Witten. So, I mean, it's pretty easy to get to Zeke at captain if you want to. You're just probably going to have to play one of the 2 kickers, which I'm fine doing because of how gross this game should be. It's pretty likely that kickers are probably one of the better values just because there's no like really cheap values that project too well besides maybe Javon Wims if Taylor Gabriel's out. So that's just kind of how I'm looking to approach this Showdown slate. It's a pretty gross slate. I'll still have some content out, though. I will have my full updated article with some of my favorite plays that'll be out probably Wednesday afternoon, sometime Wednesday. If not Wednesday, I'll have it up by Thursday morning for sure. So if you want to check out some of the content I have available for this Showdown slate, you can go look at my Patreon. Link is down in the description, patreon.com/DFS by Noah. I will also have content for the main slate for NFL. For all that will go up on either Friday or Saturday. Usually try and get a little bit up on Friday, then the rest will go up on Saturday for the NFL slate. Also, if you play NBA, I do have a lot of NBA content available over on Patreon. You can get in our Discord chat and chat with all the other subscribers along with me. I'll be in the Discord throughout the day, so if you ever need to ask questions about lineup builds, if you want me to, or if you just want to ask, like, should I play this guy or this guy, just 1v1s, 2v2s, you can message me in Discord. I'm always in there throughout the day. Check out all the stuff I have over on Patreon. Link is down in the description. Also, appreciate if you guys would drop a like if you enjoyed the video. Subscribe to the channel if you have not yet. Click that notification bell so that way you get notified every time I upload. And I think that's pretty much it, guys. Good luck tonight on this Showdown slate. I appreciate you watching. We'll see you in the next video. Peace.